Good morning. It is October 15th, 2020. This is Getting Blown Up in Space in EVE Online, and I am Planethead. Just some normal video today. Messing about here and a little sick. Some news, notes, and just a little bit of information. News to go over is some good spots to get some information about the Triglavian invasion. My kind of goal with these videos isn't to give you all the information just because I want to spend 1,000 hours of going over different things, but to give you the option to go find things that I've found and show you where you can find them. Doing a little bit of research out there, I was able to find one of the updates that they did within the game. I always like to go with in-game stuff first. If you bring up the agency and you click on exploration, there is a new spot here, the Triglavian space spot. I always like to read these little notes down below, which can give you a little bit of information. This is more of a history lesson right here, real quick. But if you click on Triglavian space here, you'll get a lot more information as to how to get to Triglavian space, what's involved once you're there, your access to the different stations, and what you can do once you raise your standings. Really specific. I like how they set this up. It just gets right down to the bare bones of it. Not giving you everything. To learn everything, you'd have to go out there. But at least giving you an overview to get you started. Actually, I'm going to go ahead and click that off. I don't need the agency up when I come in. The one that you might miss down here at the standings area, obviously I haven't done anything in Triglavian space yet, so I have no standings, yay or nay, against them. But and also have your corporation standings too, so that's pretty cool. But is this, again, the question mark down below, and this one's actually really helpful because once you get to Triglavian space, depending on your standings, it allows you to dock to fit ships at level 1, repair shop level 2, so up to having corporate offices and industry at level 4. So right here, this is really big. It's very helpful to show you how building your standings with the Triglavians will help you while out there. Also, while you're out there, the 27 systems are connected. I don't think they're called gates, they're called something else, but they're all connected. But to get from one area to another, you also have to have standings, from what I understand. So, very interesting. The other major point that I've overheard with the Triglavians is, and it's not said here, but it sounds like even going through wormholes into Triglavian space, they can be guarded by the Triglavians on the other side. So if you don't have any standings with them, and I may try this fairly soon if I can find a wormhole toward it, don't take anything real expensive through the first time. I don't have this 100%, but from what I've heard is the Triglavians are actually guarding the space outside of the wormholes. So be a little bit careful that way. Or get your standings up before that, and maybe down the road, once I start looking to get into it, I'll do a video on increasing your standings with Triglavians. And also I think with the you can also use the filaments to go through. I don't know if those are guarded, but my understanding is with the filaments, you can only take up to battleship level and maybe even the wormholes. So that's the real quick update on Triglavian space. I don't want to go over it all. It's the stuff that I've read, I've listened to, and heard. So pretty interesting stuff going on there. I do want to get into that here at some point. The second one I wanted to go over or show you is just recently on one of my daily bonuses. I don't know if everybody gets the same bonuses but that I redeemed, is I got a blueprint for just a regular Vexor. To show you here. There we are. Regular Vexor gives me 2 runs. Got it for free. Um, and what I currently, as you can see, I'm flying a Rupture. I've been flying it for a little while. I like it a lot. When I played a long time ago, I used to fly Vexors. They're basically your first major drone boats that are out there. They're very similar to um, the Ruptures, um, but there are some major differences in how you want to use them. So what I thought about today was, now that I've flown the Rupture for a while and that I used to fly Vexors, these are your basic ships that you get into almost on day one. You just have to do a little bit of skilling up. Um, but they're, I think, one of the most useful ships, both of them. But they do have differences that you want to keep an eye out for. So I thought I would just go over that here real quick, because I am going to build a Vexor once I get the skills up. But I'm also going to have to focus on getting some of my side skills rolling. So actually, in anticipation, while I'm doing that, I'm going to go ahead. I started my destroyer skills off. Go into destroyer. So you have to do 3 levels of destroyer, and then let's go ahead and throw that in here. And then I will do 1 more level of cruiser, Galente. So, and there we go. Buy the skill. Yes. I swear it's basically what I use all my skill points or all my ISK for is just buying skill books or skills. That reminds me, back in the day you actually had to buy skill books for everything. Um, it was a very interesting time back then. But, so, maybe I'll get into that some other time. So, basically the differences between the Rupture and things I like to look for. Both have their uses. Just go ahead and pull up information on show info. That's my Rupture info. And then the first and most important thing when comparing both the Vexor Navy issue, the Vexor and the Rupture, is that they use 2 different weapon types, and I'll show you here. And I don't want to go down the rabbit hole too much, but this is very, very important. The Rupture gets a bonus to projectile turrets, rate of fire, and medium projectile turrets, rate of fire, and damage. When you look at the Vexor, it gets 5% bonus to medium hybrid turret damage. So and this is really important. The Rupture has medium projectile damage, and rate of fire, so you're getting a double bonus there with your projectile turrets. The big thing about projectile turrets is that they do a lot larger range of damage bonuses, like your explosive, your EM, your thermal. It does all of those ranges, whereas your hybrids only do a certain amount of damage. So that's really important. Number 2 is that the projectile turrets don't use any capacitor to fire, versus the hybrids do. Now, I'm not going to get, maybe one of my later videos will be the other comparisons as far as rates of fire, how much of your power grid do they use, ranges, stuff like that. I think that's something I want to learn and figure out the differences of. But as far as gunnery, and sheer doing damage with gunnery, your Rupture does more damage than your Vexor. So what does that mean? It means you can get a lot larger alpha damage initial, um, but uh, from the Rupture. On the opposite side, you'll see here, and this is a major bonus. This is what a Vexor is built for, is the drone damage. For every level that you have the Vexor, you get a 10% bonus to your drone hit points, damage, and mining yield. I always laugh at the mining yield. At some point, I want to figure out something to do with the mining yield. I think that's held over from back in the days whenever they didn't have the mining ships, but I still want to figure out something to do with that just to be funny. Um, I've always wondered if you can slave your drones over to a mining ship and then use those mining drones to um, elevate. Like, let's say you had an Orca and you slaved your drones over from the Vexor to it. Would those drones then deposit the ore into the Orca, or would they try to deposit them into the Vexor, which the Vexor wouldn't have much room for it? I don't know. That's something way down the road. It'd be something I could experiment with. Probably not. I'm guessing they've figured that out. Or why would you even want to do that? But needless to say, uh, they get a huge bonus to drones, 10%. And if you think about it, that is stacked, so it's 10%. So at level 5, you're going to get 10% on top of the 4 other levels of 10%. So it really gets bigger and bigger as it goes along. The second major one that you want to look for here is Rupture does allow you to use drones, but it only allows you to use 6 of them. And if you've watched my videos in the past recently, while I've been flying the Rupture, I've had 4 light, 5 light drones and 1 salvage drone. If you go over to the Rupture, the Vexor, it allows you 125 M3s drone capacity. So you can actually have literally 5 heavy drones or 5 medium drones and what should we call it? A bunch of light drones. You can fit a lot more drones into the ship. It's a lot more useful. The one thing you want to be careful of, though, is it only has 75 megabits of drone bandwidth. So even though you can fit 5 heavy drones into it, you can only fly 3 at a time. And if you fly those 3 at a time, you can't fly anything else. So that's very important. But those are 2 of the major differences. That's why the Vexor is used a lot more for ratting, whereas I think the Rupture is used more so for your fleets because it can do that alpha damage and then the backup of the drone damage, whereas the Vexor, its major damage is your drone. So to do a fleet with that, you'd have to have a full fleet of Vexor drones that are slaved, and even then they won't get that alpha damage right off the bat, so you can't wipe something off the grid within a split second of it showing up. Not to go too long on this, but let's look a little bit farther into the differences. Galente and actually I'll pull this down here. The other major things you want to look for are the damage that both ships can take. So you want to look at your armor and your shields. The Vexor is very susceptible to, its shields are very susceptible to explosive damage, if I'm reading this right. But its armor is even across the board. So, shield. I'm sorry. Let me revert back. Its structure is even across the board. So let's restart. Its armor is susceptible to EM damage, and its shield is susceptible. I'm sorry, its armor is susceptible to explosive damage, and its shields are susceptible to EM damage. I hope I didn't confuse you there. So, things you want to look for are how do you want to defend yourself with your ships. Um, a really good thing to look for is, um, actually, I will pull up the fitting because this is my Rupture fit. Um, I've boosted up my gyro stabilizer so I can do my damage with my guns. Um, I don't know why I have this in here. I think it's just for the ratting purposes. If I'm not in the system, I can always switch that out. I've got a little bit of drone damage going on. But it's basically shield tanked because I wanted my shields to be able to defend against explosive while boosting my damage dealing capability with my Rupture. If you swing over, and we'll just go into oops, find the Vexor. This is really important. There we are. Simulate the ship. There we are. The Vexor has the same number of slots for both your shields and your armor. The one thing though is that with the Vexors, you almost, in my mind, you almost want to do the same thing depending on where you're flying at. But you're going to throw a lot more drone damage down below, and you're going to maybe throw in a little bit of gunnery damage with your damage, doesn't matter. A little bit of damage tanking here. Sorry, it's early, long day. Up top here, that's where it gets a little bit iffy. You want to do your shield tanking up here with the Vexor. The big thing here is to look for shield. What is it best at resisting? And a Vexor could actually be very useful in Minmatar space when you're ratting. Because in Minmatar space, you're fighting against ships who do explosive damage. Right off the bat, the Vexor's shield damage is at 50%. And if you throw on some things to up that, it will defend you a lot more. With the drones, you can do a lot more damage with them. If I go into the Minmatar here, and just to give you an example, for the Rupture, and I will simulate it. Remember, this was at 50%. Oh, that's interesting. I thought it had a different defense. Huh. Okay, well, so they're basically about the same in regards to your... That is... I'm completely flummoxed. Let's try this again. Yeah, so their damage taking from explosive is exactly the same. Cool. Okay. Let's just go in. I want to make sure this is not our hit points. Yeah, they're the same. So the only major difference I'm seeing is the armor tanking is a little bit different. The Rupture gets 10% less in kinetic and 10% greater in EM. That's it. So really, as far as tanking, there are some small differences, but as far as going up against them in Minmatar space, you don't have to worry about that. Very cool. So that's something to learn. I learned today. Let's just look at a couple other things here. So your signature radius is a little bit different for the Vexor. Just to give you an idea, the signature radius is the larger the value that you have, the easier it is for things to hit you and target you. Your scan resolutions. Let's take a quick look. 290 for scan resolution for Rupture, and 280. So scan resolution is how fast you actually target somebody else. So the Rupture is a little bit harder to hit and a little bit faster to hit people with. Um, and the sensor strength should be about the same, I would think. The sensor strength is a little bit better for the Vexor. Speed-wise, and this is very good for mitigating damage, looking at 210 for the Rupture versus 195 for the Vexor. So, in general, what I'm looking at initially is the big difference is for the Vexor is the amount of damage it can deal with drones. If you like flying drones, the Vexor is a way to go. Drones are very useful for ratting because you can set them and forget them. You just have to keep an eye out whether or not they're being attacked, and they just go and do things. You don't have to keep targeting things. Whereas the Rupture seems to be able to do maybe even a little bit more damage, and more initial damage, and it's able to lock and attack better. Um, so it's much more of a combat ship in my mind, maybe defensive or PvP-ish, whereas the Vexor is more of a carrier type ship, than a cruiser in my mind. Like it might be considered a light carrier in my mind. Um, so those are the differences between a Vexor and a Rupture, top of the line. Other than that, that's all I got today. I'm sorry I went off on there a little bit. I thought there was a big difference in the shields, but I've learned something today. I'm always glad to learn something. And if you guys need anything or want anything, let me know. I am going to go make some lunch and get ready for work. And 3 more days of this, and then I'm caught back up. Alrighty. Fly dangerously. If you need anything, just contact me. Planet Head, all one word, or just comment in the comment section. Alrighty. Fly safe. Bye bye.